Captain Jake Martinez floated through the empty halls of the dead space station. His boots made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor as he moved deeper into the darkness. The old station had been drifting in space for over 50 years, and nobody knew who built it or why it was abandoned. Jake's flashlight cut through the shadows as he searched each room. Most were empty or filled with broken equipment. His team was spread out across the station looking for anything useful. Earth needed resources badly, and even old junk from a dead station might help. "Captain, you need to see this," came a voice through his radio. It was Lisa Wong, his communications officer. She sounded excited. Jake followed the sound of her voice, down a long corridor. The walls were covered with strange symbols that nobody on his crew could read. At the end of the hall, he found Lisa standing in front of a heavy metal door that was slightly open. "What did you find?" Jake asked. Lisa pointed at the door. "This room was sealed tight when we got here, but look at this lock system. It's not like anything we've seen before. It opened when I touched it like it was waiting for someone." Jake pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. The room was small but filled with equipment that looked almost new. Strange blue lights blinked on panels along the walls. In the center of the room sat a large metal box with wires running from it to several screens. "It's some kind of data storage system," Lisa said, "and Captain, I think it's still working." Jake walked around the metal box. It was covered with the same strange symbols they had seen throughout the station. But unlike the rest of the dead station, this room felt alive somehow. "Can you access it?" he asked. Lisa was already working on one of the screens. Her fingers moved quickly over buttons and switches. "I'm trying different codes. Wait. Something's happening." The screens around the room flickered to life. Text appeared in a language Jake didn't recognize, but then the words changed. Slowly, they shifted into English. "Welcome, humans of Earth," appeared on the main screen. "You have found this archive as was intended. The knowledge contained here belongs to your species." Jake and Lisa looked at each other with wide eyes. "How does it know we're from Earth?" Lisa whispered. More text appeared. "This archive contains records from your homeworld, preserved for this moment. Among these records is one that will change your understanding of your place in the galaxy." Jake felt his heart beating faster. Earth had joined the Galactic Federation 30 years ago, but humans were still treated like children by the older alien races. They were given simple jobs and old technology, while other species explored the far reaches of space. "Show us," Jake said out loud, feeling a bit foolish for talking to a machine. The screens went dark for a moment, then new images appeared. Jake recognized them immediately. It was Earth, but not the Earth he knew. The cities looked different, smaller. The date at the bottom of the screen read 2024. "This is over 130 years old," Lisa said. The images showed what looked like a television studio. Two men sat in chairs facing each other. One was younger with dark hair and wore a simple black suit. The other was older with lighter hair and seemed to be asking questions. Text at the bottom identified them as Keanu Reeves and Jimmy Fallon. "It's just an old TV show," Jake said, disappointed. But as they watched, something strange happened. The man called Keanu was answering questions about a movie, laughing and telling stories. Then suddenly, he stopped talking. His face changed. He looked directly at the camera with eyes that seemed to see right through the screen. "The Guardians of Proxima 7 will test humanity in the year 2157, Keanu said, in a voice that was completely different from before. "The crystalline beings of the Andromeda Council know that humans carry the spark of quantum consciousness. The Vorthon Empire fears what we might become." The other man, Jimmy, stared at him with his mouth open. The audience in the studio fell, completely silent. Keanu continued speaking, but his voice sounded like it was coming from far away. "The coordinates are 47.2 by 15.8 by 93.1 in the Kepler system. There you will find the proof that consciousness shapes reality itself. The metal beings of Tau Ceti have been waiting for us to discover this truth." Jake felt the blood drain from his face. Those coordinates were in a system that humans had only discovered 3 years ago. The Tau Ceti system was home to a race of mechanical beings that the Federation called the Constructors. How could someone in 2024 know about them? Tell me you're recording this, Jake said to Lisa. She nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. Every second of it. On the screen, Jimmy Fallon finally found his voice. Keanu, are you okay? What are you talking about? But Keanu wasn't done. The test will come when Captain Martinez finds this message. The young woman with the gift of languages will help him understand. Together, they will learn that some humans can touch the quantum field that connects all minds across time and space. Jake grabbed Lisa's arm. That's us. He's talking about us. Keanu looked directly into the camera again. Jake, you must bring this message to Earth. Dr. Amy Foster will know what it means. She has been searching for proof that consciousness exists beyond the physical brain. This recording is that proof. The studio erupted in chaos. People in the audience started talking loudly. Jimmy tried to ask more questions, but Keanu had gone quiet again. He looked confused, like he didn't remember what he had just said. We're experiencing technical difficulties, came a voice from somewhere off camera. The image flickered and then went dark. New text appeared on the screen. This broadcast was immediately classified by Earth authorities. The individual known as Keanu Reeves was taken into protective custody and disappeared from public records shortly after this incident. Jake and Lisa stared at the blank screen in silence. Finally, Lisa spoke. Captain, how could someone in 2024 know about alien species that weren't discovered until decades later? How did he know our names? How did he know we would find this message? Jake shook his head. I don't know, but he mentioned someone on Earth who might have answers. Dr. Amy Foster. He paused, thinking. Lisa, copy everything in this archive, all of it. We're heading back to Earth immediately. As they prepared to leave the station, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the look in Keanu's eyes during that strange moment. It was like he was seeing something far beyond the television studio, something that existed outside of normal time and space. Whatever had happened to the actor in that moment, it was about to change everything for humanity. Jake just hoped they were ready for what they might discover. Dr. Amy Foster sat in her small office at Earth University, looking at old books about ancient civilizations. She had spent her whole life studying how different cultures understood the mind and consciousness. Most people thought her work was boring, but Amy believed that consciousness was the most important mystery in the universe. Her computer made a soft beeping sound. A new message had arrived. Amy looked at the sender's name and frowned. Captain Jake Martinez was not someone she knew, but the message header said it was urgent and classified. She opened the message and began reading. Her coffee grew cold as she read about the space station, the archive, and the impossible recording. When she finished reading, Amy sat back in her chair and stared at the wall. This has to be fake, she said to herself. But something about the message felt real. The details were too specific, too strange to be made up. Amy picked up her phone and called the number Captain Martinez had provided. The call connected immediately. Dr. Foster, came a man's voice. Thank you for calling. I know this sounds crazy, but I need you to see this recording. Captain Martinez, if this is some kind of joke. It's not a joke, Doctor. I'm sending you the file right now. Please just watch it. Amy's computer beeped again. A large file was downloading. When it finished, she opened it and saw the same television studio that Captain Martinez had described. She watched the entire recording twice, taking notes as Keanu Reeves spoke about things that should have been impossible for him to know. After the second viewing, Amy called her friend Dr. Ben Clark. Ben was a quantum physicist who worked at the same university. If anyone could help her understand what she was seeing, it would be him. Ben, I need you to come to my office right away. Bring your equipment for analyzing quantum field fluctuations. Amy, it's almost midnight. What's this about? Just come. Trust me. 20 minutes later, Ben arrived carrying a heavy case full of scientific instruments. He was a thin man with wild gray hair who always looked like he had just woken up. This better be important, he said, setting down his case. Amy showed him the recording without explaining anything first. She wanted to see his reaction. Ben watched silently, his eyes getting wider as Keanu spoke about quantum consciousness and alien civilizations. Where did you get this? Ben asked when it was over. Amy told him about Captain Martinez and the space station. Ben listened carefully, asking questions about the technical details. I need to run some tests, Ben said finally. If this recording is real, there should be quantum signatures in the audio. Consciousness interacting with quantum fields would leave traces. Ben set up his equipment and began scanning the recording. The machines hummed and clicked as they analyzed every second of the footage. After an hour, Ben looked up with a strange expression on his face. Amy, this is impossible. The quantum signatures are unlike anything I've ever seen. During the moments, when Keanu was speaking about the future, the quantum field fluctuations spiked to levels that shouldn't be possible for a human brain. What does that mean? It means his consciousness was somehow accessing information from outside normal space and time. But the energy required for that kind of connection should have killed him instantly. Amy felt a chill run down her spine. Ben, we need to find out what happened to Keanu Reeves after this recording was made. They spent the next 3 days researching everything they could find about the actor. The public records showed that he had continued making movies for a few years after 2024, but something had changed. His interviews became shorter and stranger. He stopped talking about his personal life completely. Then, in 2027, he simply disappeared. No announcements, no farewell tours, no explanations. The official story was that he had retired to live privately. But Amy and Ben found evidence that government agencies had been asking questions about him. Look at this, Ben said, pointing to his computer screen. 3 different intelligence agencies opened files on Keanu Reeves within a week of that broadcast. All of the files are still classified. Amy leaned over to look. What could they have wanted with an actor? Before Ben could answer, Amy's office door opened. A tall, thin figure in a dark suit walked in without knocking. The figure's skin had a slight green tint and its eyes were large and golden. Amy recognized the species immediately. It was a Zellarian, one of the most advanced races in the Galactic Federation. Dr. Foster, Dr. Clark, the alien said in perfect English. I am Ambassador Zixthor. We need to talk. Amy stood up slowly. Ambassador, this is unexpected. What can we do for you? Zixthor closed the door behind him and looked around the small office. His golden eyes lingered on Ben's quantum detection equipment. You have been investigating certain historical records, the ambassador said. Records that deal with consciousness phenomena among humans. We're scientists, Ben said. Research is what we do. Indeed. But some research can be dangerous, especially for young species like humanity. Zixthor moved closer to Amy's desk. Tell me, what have you learned about the individual known as Keanu Reeves? Amy exchanged a glance with Ben. Why do you want to know? Because his case is not unique. Throughout your species' history, certain individuals have experienced what you might call consciousness expansion. We have been monitoring these incidents. Monitoring? Amy asked. For how long? Since before your species developed writing. We knew that eventually one of these incidents would be recorded and preserved. We have been waiting for someone like you to find it. Ben stepped forward. Are you saying that the Federation has been watching humanity this whole time? That you knew about people like Keanu? Zixthor's expression was hard to read, but Amy thought she saw something like sadness in his golden eyes. Dr. Clark, your species is approaching a critical point in its development. The consciousness expansion that occurred in your entertainment figure is a sign that humanity may soon undergo a fundamental change. What kind of change? Amy asked. The kind that other species fear, Zixthor said quietly. There are forces in the galaxy that do not want humanity to reach its full potential. The Vorthan Empire in particular views human consciousness expansion as a threat to their dominance. Amy felt her heart start racing. The Vorthans were known throughout the Federation as ruthless conquerors. They had destroyed dozens of civilizations and enslaved countless others. Why are you telling us this? Ben asked. Because you have already discovered too much to ignore, but you have not yet discovered enough to protect yourselves. Zixthor moved toward the door. There is a facility, in your Nevada desert where the individual known as Keanu Reeves was taken after his consciousness expansion. If you truly wish to understand what happened to him, you must go there. Wait, Amy called out. How do we know you're telling the truth? Zixthor paused at the door. Because, Dr. Foster, you are not the first human to experience minor consciousness expansion. Your own research into ancient civilizations has been guided by quantum intuition that you do not yet understand. Why do you think you were so quick to believe Captain Martinez's impossible story? With that, the ambassador left, closing the door softly behind him. Amy and Ben sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Ben spoke. Amy, what did he mean about your consciousness expansion? Amy thought about all the time she had felt drawn to certain research topics without knowing why. All the hunches that had led to discoveries, all the moments when she had known things without being able to explain how. I think, she said slowly, we need to go to Nevada. Dr. Amy Foster drove her old car through the Nevada desert, with Dr. Ben Clark sitting beside her. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. They had been driving for 6 hours, following coordinates that Ambassador Zixthor had given them before disappearing again. Are you sure we should be doing this? Ben asked, looking at the empty desert around them. What if this is some kind of trap? Amy kept her eyes on the road. Ben, after everything we've seen, I don't think we have a choice. Something big is happening and we're right in the middle of it. They had spent the last week researching more cases like Keanu Reeves. What they found surprised them both. Amy's research assistant, Tony Rivera, had helped them dig through old archives and historical records. The pattern they discovered was shocking. Tony had found Leonardo da Vinci's private notebooks in a digital archive in Italy. Hidden among his famous inventions were designs that looked like spaceships. The notes described something called a light-speed engine and mentioned the wise beings of distant stars. Look at this, Tony had said, showing them copies of the pages. Da Vinci wrote about flying between stars 300 years before humans even knew that stars were suns. But that wasn't all. They found similar cases throughout history. Nikola Tesla's personal papers mentioned voices from the great mind of Altair. A science fiction writer named Carl White had written detailed descriptions of alien races in the 1960s that perfectly matched species discovered by the Federation decades later. It's like certain people throughout history have been receiving information from somewhere else, Amy had said, but they didn't understand what was happening to them. Now, driving through the desert, Amy thought about what Ambassador Zixthor had told them. Humanity was approaching a critical point. These consciousness expansions were signs of something bigger coming. There, Ben said, pointing ahead. I see lights. In the distance, Amy could see a cluster of buildings surrounded by tall fences. Guard towers stood at the corners and bright lights lit up the entire area. It looked like a military base, but there were no signs or markings anywhere. They parked their car a mile away and walked closer on foot. The facility was bigger than it had looked from a distance. Amy counted at least 20 buildings, some of them very large. Strange equipment sat on rooftops, pointing up at the sky. How are we supposed to get in there? Ben whispered. Before Amy could answer, a figure stepped out from behind a rock near them. It was Ambassador Zixthor, but he looked different somehow. His usual calm expression was gone, replaced by something that looked like worry. Dr. Foster, Dr. Clark, he said, quietly. You came. Good. Ambassador, what is this place? Amy asked. This is where your government brings humans who experience consciousness expansion. They study them, trying to understand how it works. Zixthor looked toward the facility. Keanu Reeves has been here for over 30 years. Ben stepped forward. Is he still alive? Yes, but he is not the same person he was before. The expansion changed him permanently. He exists now partly in this reality, and partly in the quantum field that connects all consciousness. Amy felt a chill despite the warm, desert air. Can we see him? Zixthor nodded. That is why I brought you here. But first you must understand something important. The consciousness expansion that is happening to humans is not random. It is part of your species' natural evolution. He led them to a hidden entrance in the facility's outer fence. The metal gate opened silently at his touch. Most species in the galaxy can only use their consciousness to control their own bodies and immediate environment. But a few species develop what we call quantum consciousness. They can access information across time and space, connect with other minds, and eventually shape reality itself. They moved quietly through the shadows between buildings. Amy's heart was beating fast, but she forced herself to stay calm. "How many species have this ability?" she asked. "In the entire galaxy, only 3 species have ever developed full quantum consciousness. Humans will be the 4th if you survive the transition." "What do you mean, if we survive?" Ben asked. Zixthor stopped walking and turned to face them. "The Vorthan Empire has destroyed every species that developed quantum consciousness. They fear that such beings could challenge their power. They are already preparing to invade Earth." Amy felt her stomach drop. "When?" "Soon. That is why we must accelerate your development. The Federation Council has been debating this for years, but recent events have forced our hand." They reached a large building in the center of the facility. Zixthor placed his hand on a scanner beside the door, and it opened silently. Inside, the hallways were white and sterile like a hospital. "The individual you knew as Keanu Reeves is in the secure wing," Zixthor said. "But I must warn you, he may not recognize you. His consciousness exists primarily in the quantum field. Now." They walked through several security checkpoints. Each one opened automatically as they approached, as if the building itself recognized Zixthor. Finally, they reached a heavy door marked with symbols Amy didn't understand. The room beyond was unlike anything Amy had ever seen. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps and alien languages. In the center of the room sat a man with long, dark hair and a beard. He looked older than he should have, but Amy recognized him immediately from the old movies she had watched. Keanu Reeves sat perfectly still, staring at something only he could see. His eyes were open, but they seemed to be looking beyond the physical world. "Keanu?" Amy said softly. The man's head turned slowly toward her. When his eyes focused on her face, Amy gasped. They were still human eyes, but there was something infinite in them, like looking into deep space. "Dr. Amy Foster," Keanu said, in a voice that seemed to come from far away. "I have been waiting for you to find me. You know who I am?" "I know many things now. I know that you have been searching for proof that consciousness exists beyond the brain. I know that Dr. Clark is trying to understand quantum mechanics on a level that goes beyond current human science." Keanu stood up slowly. "I know that Tony Rivera will discover something important in the archives tomorrow." Ben stepped forward. "How can you know about Tony? We didn't tell anyone we were coming here." Keanu smiled, and for a moment he looked like the actor Amy remembered from old movies. "Because in the quantum field, time flows differently. Past, present, and future exist together. I can see the path that leads humanity to its next evolutionary step." "What is that step?" Amy asked. "You will learn to use your quantum consciousness, not for war or conquest, but for healing and connection. This is why the Vorthans fear you. They became powerful by suppressing emotion and empathy. But humans will become powerful by expanding those very qualities." Zixthor spoke from behind them. "The Vorthon fleet is already moving toward your solar system. They will arrive within months." Keanu nodded. "Yes, but they do not understand what they are facing. Humanity's greatest strength has always been your ability to connect with others, to feel what they feel. When you learn to extend that ability across space and time, you will become something the galaxy has never seen before." Amy felt tears in her eyes, though she wasn't sure why. "What do we need to do?" "Go back to Earth," Keanu said. "Share what you have learned. Find others who are beginning to experience consciousness expansion. Help them understand what is happening to them." "Will we see you again?" Ben asked. Keanu's infinite eyes looked at something beyond the room. "We will meet again when humanity needs me most. Until then, I will be preparing the way in the quantum field." As they left the facility, Amy looked back once at the lights. in the desert. Somewhere in there, a man who had once been a movie star was becoming something new, something that might save their entire species. The drive back to the city was long and quiet, but Amy's mind was racing. They had work to do, and not much time to do it. Supreme Commander Krathvin stood in the control room of his massive warship, looking at the star maps displayed on the walls around him. His gray skin looked almost metallic under the harsh lights, and his red eyes showed no emotion as he studied the data about Earth. The Vorthan Empire had conquered 47 star systems over the past 1,000 years. Each victory had been swift and brutal. They would arrive at a planet, demand surrender, and destroy anyone who resisted. It was a simple system that had never failed. But Earth was different. "Commander," said his intelligence officer, Vortak, approaching with a data tablet. "We have completed our analysis of the human species. The results are disturbing." Krathvin took the tablet and read the report. His expression did not change, but his grip on the device tightened slightly. "These humans," he said slowly, "they show signs of quantum consciousness development?" "Yes, Commander. Our sensors have detected at least 12 individuals on Earth who have experienced consciousness expansion events. The number is growing." Krathvin had heard the old stories about species with quantum consciousness. According to Vorthan history, such beings were dangerous beyond measure. They could read thoughts across vast distances, see possible futures, and eventually reshape reality itself with their minds. "Have any of these humans achieved full quantum consciousness?" he asked. Vortak hesitated. "One individual appears to have undergone complete transformation. He exists primarily in the quantum field now, but maintains some connection to physical reality." The Supreme Commander walked to the large window that looked out into space. Hundreds of Vorthan ships surrounded his flagship, all of them armed, with weapons capable of destroying entire cities. "Tell me about this transformed human," Krathvin said. "His name was Keanu Reeves. He was an entertainer before his transformation 30 years ago. According to our intelligence, he can access information from any point in time and space. He may already know we are coming." Krathvin's red eyes narrowed. The Vorthans had built their empire by being faster and stronger than their enemies. But if the humans could see the future, that advantage would be gone. "What does our analysis say about human emotions?" he asked. "They are extremely strong, Commander. Humans form deep emotional bonds with other members of their species, even with aliens. They show empathy, compassion, and love to an extent we have never seen in other races." Krathvin made a sound that might have been laughter, if Vorthans were capable of such things. "Then they are weak. Emotions make soldiers hesitate. Compassion makes leaders soft. Love makes people vulnerable." But even as he said it, Krathvin felt a strange uneasiness. The Vorthans had removed such feelings from their society long ago, after their homeworld was nearly destroyed by emotional telepaths called the Shakari. The Shakari had used the Vorthans' own feelings against them, turning love into hate and trust into suspicion. After that war, the Vorthans had undergone genetic and psychological modification to suppress all emotions. They became perfect soldiers, but they had lost something important in the process. Sometimes, in quiet moments, Krathvin wondered what that something was. "Commander," Vortak continued, "there is something else. The Federation Council has been meeting in secret sessions about the humans. Ambassador Zixthor has been spending time on Earth, apparently helping certain humans understand their abilities. The Federation is protecting them? It appears so. Our spies report that the Council believes humans may be the key to defeating us." Krathvin turned away from the window. "Then we must strike before they can develop their full potential. How long until we reach Earth?" 3 months, Commander. Too long. Send the advance scouts ahead. I want to know everything about human military capabilities and population centers, and find out more about this transformed individual. If he truly exists in the quantum field, he may be able to interfere with our plans. Meanwhile, on the edge of the solar system, Captain Jake Martinez was leading a routine patrol mission when his sensors detected something unusual. 3 small ships were moving toward Earth at high speed, but they didn't match any known Federation designs. "Lisa, are you seeing this?" he asked his communications officer. Lisa Wong studied her screens carefully. Captain, those ships are using some kind of stealth technology. If we hadn't been looking in exactly the right direction, we never would have spotted them. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Try to make contact. Lisa worked at her controls for several minutes before shaking her head. They're not responding to any of our standard greeting protocols, but Captain, I'm picking up some kind of transmission from their ships. Can you decode it? I'm trying. It's using a language pattern I've never seen before. Lisa's fingers flew over her keyboard. Wait, I think I've got something. It's very basic, like they're using a translation program. Static filled the bridge speakers. Then a harsh voice came through clearly. Human vessel, we are scouts of the Fourth Han Empire. You will provide us with information about your species' military capabilities and population distribution. Jake exchanged glances with Lisa. Everyone in the Federation knew about the Vorthans, but no one expected them to come to Earth. This is Captain Martinez of the Earthship New Horizon, Jake said carefully. We are on a peaceful patrol mission. What are your intentions in this system? There was a long pause before the Vorthan voice responded. Your species has been identified as a threat to galactic stability. We are here to assess the level of that threat. We're not a threat to anyone, Jake said. Earth is a member of the Galactic Federation. We follow all interstellar laws. Your quantum consciousness development makes you a threat to all normal species, the voice replied. We have seen what beings like you can become. We will not allow it to happen again. Lisa was frantically trying to send a message back to Earth, but the Vorthan ships were jamming their communications. Captain, she whispered, I managed to get a partial message through before they blocked us. Earth knows we've made contact. The Vorthan voice came through the speakers again. Human Captain, you will answer our questions. How many of your species have developed quantum consciousness abilities? Jake thought about Dr. Foster's research and the mysterious case of Keanu Reeves. I don't know what you're talking about. Do not lie. We know that at least one of your kind has achieved full transformation. Where is he located? Jake's blood ran cold. They knew about Keanu. Even if such a person existed, I wouldn't tell you. Then you have confirmed his existence. You will also tell us the locations of others who are developing these abilities. No, Jake said firmly. The lead Vorthan ship moved closer to the New Horizon. Jake could see details of its hull now. It was covered with weapons that looked powerful, enough to destroy his ship with a single shot. Human Captain, you will cooperate or we will demonstrate why the Vorthan Empire is feared throughout the galaxy. Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded slightly. They both understood that they were probably going to die, but they wouldn't give the Vorthans any information that could help them hurt Earth. We have nothing more to say to you, Jake said. But instead of firing, the Vorthan ship suddenly pulled back. The harsh voice came through the speakers one last time. Very well, human, your defiance has told us what we needed to know. Your species values individual lives over strategic advantage. This emotional weakness will make your conquest simple. The three ships accelerated away from the New Horizon and disappeared into the darkness of space. Jake slumped in his captain's chair. Lisa, did you get any technical readings on their ships? Yes, Captain. And Jake, we're in serious trouble. Those three small scouts have more firepower than our entire Earth defense fleet. Jake stared out at the stars where the Vorthan ships had vanished. Get us back to Earth as fast as possible. Dr. Foster and the others need to know what's coming. As the New Horizon turned toward home, neither Jake nor Lisa noticed the subtle change in the quantum field around them. The brief contact with the Vorthans had triggered something in both of their minds, a small expansion of consciousness that would grow stronger in the days to come. The war for humanity's future had already begun. Dr. Amy Foster stood in the underground laboratory beneath Earth University, looking at the strange machine that Dr. Ben Clark had built over the past month. The device looked like a large metal chair surrounded by spinning rings covered in crystals and wires. Are you absolutely sure about this? Ben asked for the 10th time that day. We've never tested this on a human before. The quantum field interactions could kill you. Amy touched the smooth metal armrest of the chair. After Captain Martinez had returned with news of the Vorthon scouts, everything had changed. The Federation Council had finally revealed the truth about humanity's test. Every species that developed quantum consciousness had to prove they could use the ability responsibly, or they would be destroyed. Ben, we don't have a choice, Amy said. The Vorthon fleet will be here in 6 weeks. If I can achieve full consciousness expansion like Keanu did, maybe I can understand how to defend Earth. Tony Rivera looked up from his computer screens. Dr. Foster, I found 3 more historical cases today. A poet named Maya Collins wrote about alien civilizations in 1823. A scientist named Paul Grant discovered quantum equations in 1901 that weren't officially developed until 2089. The pattern is getting stronger. Ambassador Zixthor materialized in the corner of the room. Amy was getting used to his sudden appearances, but Ben still jumped every time it happened. Dr. Foster, the ambassador said, the Federation Council has made their decision. Humanity will be given one chance to prove that your quantum consciousness can be used for peace rather than conquest. What kind of test? Amy asked. You must successfully connect with the quantum field and use that connection to heal rather than harm. If you succeed, the Federation will help defend Earth against the Vorthons. If you fail... Zixthor didn't finish the sentence. Amy sat down in the metal chair. What happens if I fail personally? What happened to Keanu? Keanu Reeves chose to remain in the quantum field permanently. His consciousness exists there now, helping to prepare the way for others. But you may choose differently. The quantum expansion can be temporary if you have strong enough emotional anchors to pull you back. Ben connected several monitoring devices to Amy's head and arms. Your heart rate is elevated, but that's normal. Amy, remember what we discussed. Focus on your connection to other people. Think about everyone you want to protect. Amy closed her eyes and thought about her parents, who lived in a small town in Ohio. She thought about Ben and Tony, who had become like brothers to her over the past months. She thought about Captain Martinez and Lisa Wong, who were risking their lives patrolling the edge of the solar system. Beginning quantum field activation, Ben announced. The rings around the chair started spinning faster. Amy felt a strange tingling sensation, like electricity moving through her brain. The crystals on the rings began glowing with soft blue light. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Amy became aware of something vast and invisible surrounding her. It was like being in an ocean of pure thought and emotion. She could sense other minds scattered throughout the galaxy, some human, some alien, all connected by invisible threads of consciousness. Amy, can you hear me? Ben's voice seemed to come from very far away. She tried to answer, but found that words were unnecessary in this place. Instead, she sent him a feeling of reassurance and wonder. Ben gasped as he received the emotional message directly in his mind. Amy's consciousness expanded further. She could see the quantum threads that connected all living beings. Some threads were bright and strong, carrying love and compassion. Others were dark and broken, carrying pain and fear. Then she saw something that made her understand why the Vorthons were so afraid. In the quantum field, consciousness was not limited by physical laws. A being with full quantum awareness could reach across space and time to touch other minds, healing trauma or sharing knowledge instantly. They could perceive possible futures and guide events toward better outcomes. Most importantly, they could connect separate minds into a collective consciousness while still preserving individual identity. But Amy also saw the danger. The same abilities that could heal could also be used to control and manipulate. A quantum consciousness with selfish intentions could dominate other minds, forcing them to serve its will. It could rewrite memories, implant false emotions, and turn entire civilizations into slaves. Amy felt herself drifting deeper into the quantum field. It would be so easy to stay here, to exist as pure consciousness without the limitations of a physical body. She understood now why Keanu had made that choice. But then she felt something pulling her back. It was Ben's worry, transmitted directly through their new mental connection. She felt Tony's fear for her safety. She felt the love of her parents, even though they were thousands of miles away. These emotional connections became anchor points that kept her tethered to her physical body. With great effort, Amy began to pull her consciousness back from the quantum field. "Amy," Ben's voice was much clearer now. "Your vital signs were dropping. Are you okay?" Amy opened her eyes slowly. The laboratory looked exactly the same, but everything felt different. She could still sense the quantum field around her like background music that she could tune into whenever she wanted. "I'm back," she said, though her voice sounded strange to her own ears. "But I'm not the same." "What did you experience?" Zixthor asked. Amy stood up carefully, still feeling the residual effects of quantum expansion. "I saw how consciousness works on a fundamental level. I understand now why some species use these abilities to conquer others. The temptation to control other minds is enormous." "But you resisted that temptation," the ambassador observed. "Yes, because I had something to come back to. The connections I have with other people kept me anchored to who I am." Amy looked at Ben and Tony. "I think that's the key. Quantum consciousness isn't dangerous when it's based on genuine emotional connections." Ben was studying the readings from his instruments. "Amy, the quantum field fluctuations around you are still active. You maintain some level of expanded consciousness even after returning to normal awareness." Amy nodded. "I can feel it. It's like having access to a new sense that I never knew existed." Suddenly, Amy gasped and grabbed Ben's arm. "I can see them, the Vorthan fleet. They're closer than we thought." "How close?" Zixthor asked urgently. Amy closed her eyes and let her consciousness touch the quantum field briefly. Images flashed through her mind. Hundreds of gray warships moving through space, getting closer to Earth every hour. 2 weeks, she said. "They'll be here in 2 weeks, not 6. Tony looked up from his computer with wide eyes. "Dr. Foster, if you can see the Vorthans coming, can you see how to stop them?" Amy explored her new abilities carefully. In the quantum field, she could perceive the emotional states of beings across vast distances. The Vorthan minds felt cold and empty, but underneath that emptiness, she sensed something unexpected. "They're not emotionless," she said with surprise. "They've suppressed their emotions, but the feelings are still there, buried deep. Fear, loneliness, grief. They've been carrying these emotions for centuries without acknowledging them." "Can you reach them?" Zixthor asked. Amy thought about it. "Maybe, but not alone. I would need other humans with quantum consciousness to help me. The emotional resonance would need to be very strong to break through their mental barriers." Ben started, disconnecting the monitoring equipment. "Then we need to find the other humans who are developing these abilities. Captain Martinez mentioned that he and Lisa Wong have been experiencing strange dreams since their encounter with the Vorthan scouts. And there are others," Tony added. "My research shows that consciousness expansion events are happening all over Earth. People are starting to have visions, to know things they shouldn't know." Amy felt a new sense of purpose filling her. The test wasn't just about proving that humans could use quantum consciousness responsibly. It was about showing that human consciousness expansion was fundamentally different from what other species had achieved. "We need to gather everyone who's experiencing these changes," she said. "If we can connect our consciousnesses in the quantum field while maintaining our emotional bonds to each other, we might be able to do something that the Vorthans never expected." "What's that?" Ben asked. Amy smiled, and for a moment her eyes seemed to reflect the infinite depth of the quantum field. "We're going to heal them." The Vorthan fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. Supreme Commander Krathovan stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as hundreds of warships took their positions around the small blue planet. "Begin the standard invasion protocol," he ordered. "Send the surrender demand." But before his communications officer could transmit the message, something unexpected happened. Every screen on every Vorthan ship suddenly displayed the same image, a human woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "I am Dr. Amy Foster of Earth," the woman said. We know why you have come, and we want to help you. Krathven felt something he had not experienced in centuries: confusion. Help us? We are here to conquer your world. No, Amy said, somehow hearing his words across the vast distance of space. You are here because you are afraid. You have been afraid for so long that you have forgotten what it feels like to be anything else. On Earth, Amy sat in a special chamber that Dr. Ben Clark had built beneath the university. Around her, 12 other humans who had developed quantum consciousness sat in similar chairs. Captain Jake Martinez and Lisa Wong were there, along with Tony Rivera and several others who had experienced consciousness expansion over the past weeks. All of them were connected through the quantum field, their minds linked while their hearts remained anchored to their love for each other and for humanity. Together, they formed something that had never existed before: a collective consciousness based on voluntary emotional connection rather than forced mental domination. Remember, Amy said to her companions, we are not here to attack their minds. We are here to heal wounds that have been festering for 1,000 years. Through the quantum field, Amy could sense every Vorthon in the fleet. Their minds felt like frozen wastelands, empty of joy or love or hope. But underneath the ice, she could feel the buried emotions that they had suppressed so long ago. On the flagship, Krathven was struggling with sensations he did not understand. Strange feelings were rising up from some deep place inside him, feelings that should have been eliminated by his genetic modifications. Commander, his navigation officer said, something is wrong with the crew. Many of them have stopped following orders. Some are just standing and staring into space. Krathven looked around his bridge. Several of his officers were indeed standing motionless, but they did not look confused or controlled. Instead, they looked like people who were remembering something important that they had forgotten. What are you doing to us? Krathven demanded, speaking to the image of Amy Foster that still filled his screens. We are showing you what you lost, Amy replied. When your people suppressed your emotions to protect yourselves from the Shakari telepaths, you also suppressed your ability to connect with others, to feel joy, to experience love. Amy reached deeper into the quantum field, guided by the combined strength of her human companions. She found the memories that the Vorthons had buried, memories of a time before the war when their people had been artists and poets, when they had celebrated beauty and formed deep friendships, when they had loved their children and mourned their dead. Across the Vorthon fleet, thousands of soldiers suddenly remembered what it felt like to laugh. They remembered the warmth of embracing someone they cared about. They remembered the satisfaction of creating something beautiful rather than destroying something that others had built. Krathven fell to his knees as a flood of suppressed emotions overwhelmed him. For the first time in 800 years, he felt grief for all the worlds his people had destroyed. He felt loneliness for the connections they had severed when they chose conquest over community. Most powerfully, he felt a desperate longing for the peace and beauty they had sacrificed in their quest for galactic dominance. Make it stop, he whispered. But even as he said it, he knew he did not want it to stop. Amy's voice came through the speakers again, but now it sounded gentle and compassionate rather than challenging. Commander Krathven, you have been carrying this pain for so long. Your entire civilization has been running from trauma instead of healing from it. But healing is possible. Connection is possible. You do not have to be alone anymore. Through the quantum field, Amy extended an offer that no Vorthon had received in a millennium: genuine friendship without conditions or conquest. She showed Krathven what it felt like to be valued for who he was, rather than feared for what he could destroy. The Supreme Commander looked up at his officers, who were now openly weeping as they remembered what they had lost. For the first time in centuries, he saw them not as weapons to be used, but as individuals who deserved compassion and understanding. Human, Krathven said, his voice cracking with long-suppressed emotion. What do you want from us? Nothing, Amy replied. We want to give you something. We want to show you that there is another way to be strong. Strength does not have to come from isolation and fear. It can come from connection and love. Ben Clark monitored Amy's vital signs as she channeled healing energy through the quantum field to thousands of Vorthan minds. Amy, your neural activity is off the charts. Can you maintain this? Amy's consciousness was stretched across an enormous area, but the emotional support of her human companions kept her stable. I can do this because I'm not doing it alone, she said. That's what makes human quantum consciousness different. We grow stronger when we connect with others, not weaker. On the Vorthon flagship, Krathven made a decision that would change galactic history. He opened a communication channel to all ships in his fleet. All vessels stand down from attack positions. We will not be conquering Earth today. But Commander, his weapons officer protested, our orders were to destroy any species that develops quantum consciousness. Krathven looked at the officer, with eyes that were no longer empty and cold. Our orders were based on fear, but I am learning that there are alternatives to fear. Amy felt the shift in the quantum field as thousands of Vorthan minds opened to new possibilities. The healing was not complete. It would take years for the Vorthans to fully recover from centuries of emotional suppression, but a beginning had been made. Dr. Foster, Krathven said, my people have caused great harm throughout the galaxy. We have much to answer for. Then help us heal the damage, Amy replied. Use your technology and knowledge to repair what was broken. Show other species that change is possible, that even the most feared conquerors can choose a different path. As the days passed, the Vorthon fleet became an unlikely ally to Earth. Krathven met with Federation leaders to discuss how his people could make amends for their past actions. The process would be difficult and would take generations, but it was a start. The Federation Council, witnessing humanity's unique approach to quantum consciousness, unanimously voted to restructure galactic civilization around principles of emotional connection and healing rather than hierarchy and fear. Amy Foster, now recognized as humanity's first quantum ambassador, worked with beings from dozens of species to develop new forms of interstellar cooperation based on empathy and understanding. And on a quiet world at the edge of the galaxy, Keanu Reeves smiled as he watched the quantum field fill with new connections between minds that had once been enemies. The moment he had foreseen 30 years ago in a television studio had finally come to pass. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or subjects, but as healers of an ancient wound that had divided the stars for far too long.